And with me today from NVISION is Dr. Duna Roof, and welcome back.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you here.
Thanks for having me. It's always great to be here.
Yeah, and today I'm going to let you pronounce this because we're talking about something that's also referred to surfer's eye, but the actual name is?
Pterygium.
Pterygium.
So many people get stumped by that word because it starts with a P, but it's pronounced with a T.
Okay.
It's a really common occurrence, and commonly we just call it surfer's eye.
Okay.
So a pterygium, as you can see on the picture there,
Okay, we'll
is
look
a
at the first
growth that happens on the white part of the eye. Typically it grows on the side near the nose.
Yeah.
And a collection of vascular tissue, we call it fibrovascular tissue, that grows from the white part of the eye towards the colored part of the eye.
Okay.
And in really advanced cases, it can continue to grow until it hits the pupil, the center of the vision that we see through. And I've even seen some that are so advanced that the pterygium continues to grow all the way to the other side of the white part of the eye. In some instances, some patients just kind of let them go and they continue to grow. So these are really common in folks who spend a lot of time outdoors. So they are very common in Southern California, and we see these all the time. Most commonly, they happen in surfers because of chronic sun and wind exposure, and it's really difficult to wear sunglasses or eye protection while you're surfing. So over time, or just chronic UV light exposure, this pterygium develops. So it's benign, it's a benign growth, it's not cancerous, but it can cause a few issues. Okay,
now in the next photo we're going to see, like you said, it starts to grow. Now, is this something that basically your eye, you get this irritation, it's protecting itself? In a sense?
Sort of, yeah. So because of the chronic sun and wind exposure, there is chronic irritation to the white part of the eye, so it reacts by growing this tissue. And the name pterygium comes from the Greek word pterygios, which means wing, because you can see it's almost shaped like a wing, and it just continues to grow towards the visual axis. Most of the time it grows towards the side near the nose, but sometimes it can also grow from the side near the temple, and some folks even have them from both sides, and they continue to grow until they meet in the center of the pupil. Okay,
and the name makes sense because pterodactyl, the first few letters of that means a winged, which also starts with a P. But when this starts to happen, at what point can it just go away if somebody sees it a little bit? Or should you always go see your eye care
It's uncommon for it to go away on its own. So the natural progression of a pterygium is that it first develops just on the white part of the eye, and then once it starts developing towards the colored or the clear part of the eye, towards the cornea, that's when it becomes a pterygium. And naturally, it either stays where it is or it continues to get worse. It's very uncommon for it to regress on its own. So when it's inflamed, it can become really red and cause irritation or burning to the person's eye. So if that happens, definitely go see your eye doctor because it can be treated with eye drops that can reduce the inflammation. The eye drops won't get rid of it, but they will treat the redness and the irritation. And those are typically steroid eye drops. A steroid eye drop is a really good solution to reduce the redness and the irritation, but it will not eliminate it. And steroid eye drops cannot be used long term because they have side effects. They can increase eye pressure or they can cause cataracts. So they're a good temporary fix just to alleviate some redness and irritation, but really the only way to completely get rid of this is with surgery.
And what is the surgery where it's done? Now here's the pathology, so you're showing it kind of a cross-section?
Exactly. So whenever this is removed surgically, you can look at it under the microscope, and what I wanted to show by the slide is highlighting that this is a benign growth. The type of degeneration that's noted under the microscope is called elastotic degeneration. And basically there is a breakdown or destruction of one of the layers of the cornea because of this tissue growing over it and into it as well. However, once this is removed and the surface of the cornea is polished and allowed some time to heal, then it can return to its normal anatomy.
As far as the surgery goes, what does that entail? Because whenever somebody hears surgery on the eye, it doesn't matter what it is, it's a scary thought when you think about it.
So the surgery is really straightforward.
Okay.
It takes approximately 10 to 15 minutes, and typically it is done under some mild sedating anesthesia, so the patient is awake. We don't completely put them to sleep. The surgery is done on an outpatient basis. Sometimes it can be done in an outpatient surgery center, or it can even be done in a surgical suite in the office.
Okay.
During those 10 to 15 minutes, what I exactly do is I numb up the eye first so that the patient doesn't have any pain during the surgery. I go ahead and I excise or cut out that pterygium. I clean up the area underneath it to remove of any residual tissue or any cells that may cause recurrence of the pterygium. After cleaning up that area, we just stop some of the blood vessels that may be bleeding a little bit, because that part of the eye does have blood vessels. And then I reconstruct that area with tissue. So there are a couple of different options of how to do it. The most common way that is done, which is my preferred method, is that I actually take a graft from the person's own eye from underneath their upper eyelid. So it's from the white part of the eye from underneath the upper eyelid.
And this is all done in 10 to 15 minutes?
Exactly, yeah, it's really quick. So the graft that I take out is the same size and shape as the pterygium that I just removed, what area, the defect that it left on the white part of the eye. And I use a surgical adhesive, like a glue, in order to graft that graft onto the area where the pterygium was removed. And that's pretty much it. So I rarely use any stitches. It's all done with glue. Takes 10-15 minutes, no pain to the person who's having the surgery. And then I put a patch over the eye and a plastic shield to protect it that just stay on for the first day. During the first week, the person may have some irritation, itchiness, feeling like there's some sand in their eye. That's all completely normal. And typically day by day over the course of the first week, it continues to feel better and better. Usually by about 1 month, the eye is looking pretty good. There may still be some little spots of redness. By 3 months, typically the eye looks nice and clear and white, like nothing happened there.
Okay, you talked about how this can come about. Is there anything that people can do to prevent it? Now, a person that maybe is not out surfing and all and wear sunglasses and those kinds of things, but in general, is there something like people who are very active out surfing or go to the beach a lot or whatever it might be, is there preventative measures?
There is. So wearing sunglasses with UV protection is very important. So whenever you buy sunglasses, make sure that they have UV protection, because that will reduce those harmful UV rays that are getting to the surface of the eye and causing this pterygium to occur. If somebody has some dry eye, it's also important to get that treated with lubricating eye drops or other more advanced ways of treating dry eye, because the combination of the UV light and the dry eye can also elicit this pterygium to occur.
Okay, what about in kids? Is that common? Because a lot of kids, like my daughter, they don't wear sunglasses for some reason. You know?
So it does happen in kids. I've seen it in teenagers. I just had a patient recently who's a 17-year-old who's on the rowing team in his school. And he's out in the sun all the time, and he's developing pterygiums in both eyes. So again, wearing sunglasses with UV protection is strongly encouraged. And then once the pterygium stabilizes, then I would recommend surgery, usually a little bit later, to get rid of it completely.
All right, and as you said, with surfers, it's a little hard.
It is.
They don't want to wear sunglasses.
Yeah, it's really tough. So
see that? You can invent surfer sunglasses.
There we go. Yeah.
That just don't fog up and the water just goes away.
Exactly. That would be really helpful. We would fix pterygiums.
Yes, you would. But again, just I would think, like for surfers, you just keep track of it. Maybe put drops in as needed. And those kinds of things. Just over the counter.
Over-the-counter artificial tears.
Artificial tears,
yeah, so make sure that you're getting artificial tears or lubricating eye drops. I don't recommend the eye drops that are over-the-counter that are to eliminate eye redness.
Right, because that's all they're just masking your problem.
Exactly.
Right?
So what these eye drops do is that they vasoconstrict the blood vessels. They narrow them so that immediately, within seconds of putting them in, the eye looks nice and white. But over the long term, they can cause some vasodilation of these blood vessels that continues to substantiate the problem, and it will also can cause some dry eye as well.
Yeah.
Because they all have some preservatives in them that can be irritating to the surface of the eye. So just get lubricating eye drops, artificial tears.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you as well.
You take care.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And we'll be right back.